It's time to talk to Adam Chernoff from Angle Sports here on Chicken Dinner. You and I sweat it together. Miami +3. They were the better team. They just love the fullback too much. What happened with Alec Ingle? Why is he getting the ball? Clearly, I'm over it.
I'm not over it either. I don't know. You have Mostert, you have Achane, you have Wright, who's been emerging as a great power runner. You're moving the football well all game. Once, okay. You get burned with the fullback dive once, fine. To do it twice, man, in those circumstances. And then the field goal decision. I thought that was equally or perhaps more egregious than the decision to go fullback dive on 2 consecutive 3rd and 1s. You got to go for it there, given the time and clock. So, I mean, that was torture for a second.
Well, and to do the fullback dive knowing that you're going to kick the field goal, to me, is the worst part of the whole scenario.
It's not acceptable. A much different team coming this week in the Dolphins, but yeah, that was that's going to sting on the record. We needed a little cushion there, and now we're grinding again.
6-5 on the season with your plays, which we'll get to at the end. Curious who the MVP is in your eyes right now through 7 weeks.
Well, it's got to be Pat Mahomes, right, Sam?
Don't even start.
I like the enthusiasm that you were driving here to go against the best player in the league, given the circumstances and where he's standing. But I will say, I think it's got to be Lamar Jackson to this point. I don't know if that will be received relatively well because everybody likes to criticize anything and everything that he does, but it's very difficult to argue that the best quarterback and the best offense so far through 7 weeks would not be the MVP. Now, I think you're looking at Josh Allen being very close to the conversation as well, but to me, it's a standout Lamar so far. Yeah, that boring picking the favorite in the conversation. Like, I think it's hard to disagree with.
No, it is. And it's not to say Mahomes can't do it. It's just to date, he's not the most valuable player, but that could certainly change. I laugh all the time when, these comments and these clips go viral and the common response is, he doesn't have any Super Bowls. That's not what we're talking about. We're not saying that Mahomes is not as good as Lamar. We're just saying to this point, it's Lamar's to lose. And then maybe Josh Allen has a say. Mahomes could still win it. Just right now, through 7 weeks, he's not. Let's talk about this game.
So your negative here is the interceptions, right?
My negative is that he just hasn't been that great in 4 of the 7 games.
Okay, so then if I'm playing devil's advocate here, they're undefeated. If you put in an average level quarterback, who's an average quarterback in the NFL? Throw anybody out there. Just give me an average anybody.
Andy Dalton.
Okay, if you put Andy Dalton under center for the Chiefs, starting week 1 to now, what's the Chiefs' record?
3-3.
That's probably very generous. But if we're judging what a true MVP impact is, I think that's a better way to look at it than just stat-wise. And I think if you put Andy Dalton in Buffalo, that's a very different looking record and team as well. If you put Andy Dalton in Baltimore, the impact is arguably less than those 2 teams, I would think. So that if we're talking true MVP, that's maybe a more reasonable way to look at it and where you could get to a stance with Mahomes.
Well, okay, I didn't want to even go here, but we'll skip over. No, I mean, like, if Mahomes is the MVP, why is Andy Reid not the coach of the year?
Well, that comes down to like a voting difference, and the coach of the year award is turned into most improved award, and it's tough for Reid to ever win that. And why he's at the bottom of the odds board? Because, I mean, you're not improving off of winning multiple Super Bowls in a row. So that's why it's not the coach of the year. I don't disagree with you, but when it comes to most valuable player, it's like, how are we equating value here? And I think replacement with somebody average is a good gauge of that.
Let's look at this game. It's Dallas and San Francisco.
Quick segue. You couldn't take the Mahomes heat.
We've been talking about it's not heat. It's not slander. Patrick Mahomes is the best player in football. He's not the most valuable.
Pretty valuable then.
Right. No,
some could say most valuable.
Cut the shit. We're moving on to Dallas and San Francisco. I have no idea what to do in this game. It opens 6.5 on the look ahead. Obviously, that number was never right. It's basically sitting 4 at most shops, as you can see right now on the screen. I don't know where to even start. Every bone in my body wants to take Dallas because nobody's going to want to take Dallas, and that's sometimes half the battle in the NFL. San Fran banged up, Dallas banged up. Sunday night, Niners -4. Where do you even begin on this game?
Well, I don't know. Does nobody want Dallas? Is that true?
Well, I hear if you pick Dallas, you lose your mojo. That's what I heard. That's what I was being told.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, this number's come down because of injuries. It's tough to do anything right now because San Francisco looks like they could be down several pieces on their offense. Ayuk is out for the season. That's a big blow. But I mean, the Cowboys with Parsons up front and all the injuries that they sustained pre-bye and issues in the secondary, potentially, we're waiting to see what happens with Bland. Like they've got a lot of injuries too. And I think Parsons is a true game time decision. Now, I think for context here, neutral field last week, aggregate ratings would have made San Francisco -5.5. We're now Niners -4 at home and trending lower. Like I wouldn't want Dallas here. I'm waiting to see how low can this get on San Francisco. And if the injuries are not as bad as they look, I mean, I would prefer to have San Francisco on side here. I just think you're kind of tied up until the injuries sort themselves out and you have a little more clarity. But this is now, I mean, we're getting to a pretty big adjustment down considering Dallas didn't play a game and this is fully graded off the injuries. I want to see how low this is going to trend down.
Yeah, and you'd probably be happy to lay a 3.5 if you could get that. We'll see. We'll see where it goes from here. Last game that we'll discuss is your best bet. We're going 281-282 New Orleans at the Chargers.
We are, and I'm not going to caveat with anything. It's been a weak line movement that has made the segment change directions here a couple of times. And so we're going with the over in this game at 40.5 for the Saints and the Chargers. I like these maximum versus minimum rest spots without the bye. They've gone over 72% of the time since the schedule change allowed for it to happen. It is a Chargers offense out of the bye with Greg Roman talking about opening up the offense, showing more. We've seen Justin Herbert with 34 and 39 pass attempts out of the bye. He's passing more. They could potentially get back 2 wide receivers. It was a 395-yard output against the Cardinals that ended up on the scoreboard looking far worse than it actually was. The Saints can't stop the run. The Chargers can run, and the Saints look like they could get back as many as 5 offensive starters that they desperately need. I think the Chargers defense is a little bit overrated too based on who they have faced. It is a very short total for an indoor game in this spot, and I will go over at 40.5.
40.5 everywhere you look. That's Adam Chernoff, right? Angle
That's
Sports.
the point of the show. If it's not widely available, don't do it.
The march to 60% continues. Thank you, sir.
Need it. Enjoy the game, Sam.